I'm coming afternoon.
In the case of
Vishnu?
Yes, sir.
Okay, some of the parents of some of the students, first year students, also wanted to join. So I have passed it on to them. Okay, in case they have difficulty logging in, they will contact you.
Sure, sir. No problem, sir.
Okay, we're on. That's good.
Spotlight. Spotlight. Yeah, correct. Sir, by any chance, are you able to see whether the live streaming is on?
Yeah, I'm able to see. I'm able to see. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, Shiva, you start the first. You will light the first lamp because you do all the heavy weightlifting.
Yeah, Shiva himself has not come in yet. Yes. Shiva, Professor Shiva.
Okay.
Just look for Malapaka, sir. Upstairs.
Okay.
That's all right.
We are live, sir.
Yeah, right.
Jason is coming.
No, sir.
Okay.
Right.
We'll start with my.
No, sir, you please start. I'll just join.
Okay, that's good. That's nice. So Maitri and Vishnu can do.
Yes.
Yeah. Good morning, Maitri.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Good. Okay, Vishnu, you can do the last. Take it easy. That's good.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
So we will go back and join and we'll begin the
Start the
session.
rise.
We'll start the session.
We will start the session in 1 minute, sir. We'll go to our offices and start.
Okay. Good.
Thank you.
We need to change the focus to speaker three.
JT is there, RC is there. Uday, you are still not there? Okay, maybe he still has another couple of minutes. Okay, 9:45. Good morning, Uday. Thanks for joining. So
Yes.
sorry, every time we bother you at the odd time. It's what, 12 o'clock midnight for you?
This is, yes, just past the midnight.
Yeah.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. This is Shivakumar Malapaka. Thank you all for joining for this year's inauguration of RISE. Hey, I'm hearing it twice. Oh, I'm hearing it twice.
Yeah, but it's okay for us. We are not
It's
hearing
actually,
it.
we have no problem. Our audio is very good.
I'm hearing it twice because YouTube Live is there and the lag is there, so it is coming twice into my ears.
So YouTube Live, you please mute it.
Yeah, I've just done that. Yeah, I've just done that. So welcome you all for this year's RISE. RISE is our annual event which focuses on research, innovation, societal problems and societal good, and entrepreneurship aspects that are practiced at the institute. And this year, it was a very special year because of the pandemic. Usually, we have before the start of the research colloquium, which is the first event, we would have had talks from our PhD alumni and entrepreneurial alumni. But since this year was very special, we had contributed to these four aspects, that is research, innovation, societal good, and entrepreneurship aspects in the COVID times. We wanted to have a panel discussion which focuses on these four aspects, and we want to highlight what was done and what were the lessons learned and things like that. So for this, we start. Okay. So we are starting our panel discussion now. A little early, I suppose, already. So the panel discussion is on research, innovation, societal good, and entrepreneurship aspects exhibited by IIIT-B during initial phase of COVID pandemic. And the panel consists of Professor RC, Professor Srikanth, Professor Srinath was unable to come because of some commitments at home. So he's being represented by his PhD student, Jayati Deshmukh, and Mr. Uday Egde of UseReady. And this particular panel is being moderated by our director, Professor Sadagopan. So I wish to introduce the panelists. Our director, Professor Sadagopan, has his PhD from Purdue University and has been the founder director of the institute since its inception. And he has vast experience in e-governance and and teaching as well, and research, of course. So we welcome you, sir, for this panel, and wish you and request you to moderate this panel. Then we have the topic research represented by Professor Srinath's student Jayati Deshmukh, who is interested in autonomous systems, multi-agent systems, network science, and game theory. He is a PhD student with Professor Srinath. Then we have innovation stream represented by Professor R.C. Chandrasekhar Ramanathan. He has his PhD from Mississippi State University, and he is considered as one of the top 10 data scientists in the country. And he's our Dean Academics and has multiple hats, and is always encouraging in many of the works we do take up. Then societal good, S, of the RISE, is represented here by Professor T.K. Srikanth, who has his PhD from Cornell University. He is actively involved in e-health issues. He is also a member of Government of Karnataka Health Panel, advising them on how to use IT for health. And they had worked on certain aspects which they will, during the COVID pandemic, they helped in Jharkhand government, and that particular issue they will now, I think, highlight in this particular panel discussion. And finally, E, the entrepreneurship aspect. We are happy to have our first batch alumni, Mr. Uday Hegde. He is an entrepreneur as well as a philanthropist, and also an active investor. And he has worked in many companies before he started his own company. And we are very happy to have you here, sir. And hope you will highlight the entrepreneurial aspects that went into this particular effort. Thank you very much. Professor Saragopan, sir, I request you to start the discussion.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to RISE 2021. Thank you, Shiva, for
one small, sorry, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, one small, any questions or queries, please put them in the chat window. We will take up in the end of the discussion. Thank you. Sorry
Thank
for
you.
the disturbance.
No problem. Thank you. And, thank you, Shiva, for taking care of this one. It is an extremely well organized 2 days. And I do hope that the IIIT community and, of course, the larger community for which this is intended also benefit. I thought it might be good to kind of spend a minute on the evolution of RISE itself. Since we were born in ITPL and we are surrounded by our industry folks, right in the very first year, our friends from GE used to troop in and find some interesting projects of some students. And then they would kind of talk to me, talk to the faculty colleagues. We were not too many of us at that time, just a handful of us. And then they will say, can we bring our colleagues? So they used to bring their colleagues. So we did find that there was sufficient interest. And we also thought that we possibly needed some efficiency. Otherwise, we were repeating the same thing multiple times. So that is the time in the very second year, I think Professor PCP Bhatt suggested that we start something called open house or open day. And that is how it started. The idea is to be able to share the research that goes on in IIIT with the larger community, familiarize them. And later years, we also used it as a prospective. Students can come and see what is happening so that they do get interested. And then, of course, the placement also found it was a nice way to kind of communicate to the prospective employers. So, and then about 5-6 years down the line, of course, Uday is very much here. At least his classmate Gautam Hegde started a startup that was doing well, and we have a couple of more startups. So we wanted something for the startups. And so then we had these hackathons. So in the last 3-4 years, I think the credit should go to Shiva and Ramesh. They have put this together in the form of RISE so that it brings all the 4 things together: research, innovation, societal good, and entrepreneurship. And that is how RISE has been happening in the last couple of years. And this is the 3rd or 4th edition of RISE in this format. And welcome you all. Okay. And let me spend a minute setting the stage for today's panel discussion. Of course, COVID-19 has been such a hard thing for the entire humanity, millions of lives lost, and maybe tens of millions of people impacted. But somewhere along, there is also a silver line, okay? And I think COVID also brought humanity together. And much more important for our audience is it brought the scientists, the techies, the civil servants, the doctors, the political leaders, the police force, all together. And that has actually been some interesting stuff, because this kind of people coming together has not happened. And this has actually happened quite a bit in this country. And many of you would have seen that there has been this famous app which was there. And of course, there's a new generation app which the whole country is using, etc. And we also thought that there is a microcosm of that represented within IIIT. We have been engaged with the government. We have been kind of engaged with some pure research. And we also have been kind of having some work along with the startups represented by Uday today. And of course, our EHRC and CITAP has been looking at a lot of societal issues of this one, including privacy and stuff like that. And we not only have been operating with the Karnataka government, we also have been operating with other governments, including the Jharkhand government, with Divyaraj taking the lead. So we thought that we would kind of put it together in the form of panel discussion so that you get a feel of what IIIT could do in this COVID-19 war, which the whole humanity is fighting against this little invisible fellow. Okay. And that is how the panel discussion is organized. Okay. So because my job is just a bellman, so I have to ensure that 9:45 we all stop so that the next program we don't spill over. And we have some very distinguished colleagues who are actually going to do the talking. So request to all four of you, plan something like about 5 to 10 minutes talk. So mean of about 7 minutes so that we'll have some time also for the Q&A session. And okay, if you do exceed 10 minutes, I might kind of give you a prompt. Okay, otherwise I will kind of stay behind. And let me start with Jayati. Jayati?
Sure. Yeah.
Please.
Thanks a lot, sir. Yeah. I'll be talking about some of the research aspects. I am actually not able to share my screen. Is it possible?
RC or Shiva, you are in the institute, so can you let her share the screen?
Now you can.
Right. Sure. Yeah. Just a second.
Okay, we are able to see Jayati. Go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. So yeah, good morning, everyone. So like Professor Sadgopan said, during like last year, once the pandemic started and there was lockdown, and also all the research labs and all moved online and continued with their work. But many of us were also involved on working on specifically COVID-related aspects. So I'll be primarily talking about some of the work which we did in that regard. So we started with initially we started with the analysis of data. So we were getting data at like state level and so on, like how many COVID hospitals are there, how many of them are referring to the quarantine centers and so on. So initially we were the testing details and things like that. So we were getting all those kind of details. So we started with some of the data analysis of all these kinds of aspects. And then once we had some idea related to that, next we moved to building a simulation model which could even predict, like based on the scenarios, how many cases are expected, how many people might get infected and things like that. So we were building a simulation model for predicting the cases and so on. Some of the key aspects of the model were something as follows. So we used this which well-known model called SEIR model, which is like something like this on the right. And so it has states like susceptible, exposed, infected, and so on. So we thought that just this kind of model is not sufficient. We also need to bring in following two aspects, which I would like to highlight. So one was network diffusion aspects into the model, by which we could model how the people are moving, because that's how COVID was spreading, right? So we wanted to bring in the mobility aspects. So here on the bottom right, you can see it's a graph of Bangalore, where each circle represents a ward, and every ward which is within 1 kilometer is connected. So something like this kind of ward level graph we built, and then we modeled two kinds of mobilities, like short distance mobility where people were traveling nearby their homes, and then long distance mobility and so on. So we had data coming in from Facebook Geo Insights and DMTC, and all these things were aggregated with this baseline graph. And then we, based on our discussions, we also interacted with some of the doctors and even epidemiologists and so on. So what they suggested was that, see, you cannot model each and every ward in the same way. Different wards have different aspects. So some wards might be residential, some may be more industrial and so on. And those aspects are important in how it will spread the disease and so on. So we tried to bring in a community interaction model. I'll maybe show quickly this in the demo as well. And then based on this model, next we went to evaluate how different interventions can be evaluated, and this in turn can be used to implement different policies. So we were also in touch with the War Room in Bangalore, and we had discussions with them, and they use some of these aspects. Also, this model can be further fine-tuned based on more current data. And right now, we have modeled for Bangalore level and Karnataka level, but given the data availability, it can also be extended to other states or cities. Let me quickly show the simulation so that this will give you an idea. So here, for example, we can select Bangalore or Karnataka, select a start date. So these are the interaction aspects I was talking about. So like, how many are the workplaces open? How much is it leading to the exposure? Community interactions. So we can vary based on, let's say, things like, are the movie theaters open? Are things like temples open and so on. Schools, let's say schools are closed, so school interactions can be reduced and so on. Public transport is open. Let's say now we see that mobility has increased, so maybe I can slightly increase the mobility and so on. We can, I was talking about mobility, so BMTC, Facebook, all these things can be added. And then these are the underlying SCIR model specific parameters. So yeah, these can also be changed, but the default values we took from India side, which has also been working on this. So let me just plot it and quickly show. Right, so here is the heat map which shows for each ward how infected symptomatic numbers look like, and we can vary over time. Also see the top 10 wards with these numbers. And below we can see the plots of the susceptible, exposed, all these states. So this is at the log scale. Currently we can see it at the Bangalore level, but we can also choose one of the wards and even then see, like, for that specific ward, how the predicted trends look like. So yeah, that was some of the things which we worked on related to COVID over the last year. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. So thank you. You took less time than what was allotted. Thank you. Okay, right. Okay, so maybe because you have, okay, any quick, immediate, because sometimes people find it easier. Are there anything on the chat? Let me quickly see. Okay, there is nothing on the chat. Okay, so thank you, Jayati. If I will come back if needed. Okay, sure. So thanks, may I now request Professor Srikanth to share his views. Professor Srikanth, over to you.
Good morning, Professor. Thank you.
You have to give control to him in case he has slides.
No, I'm not planning to use any slides.
Okay, thank you.
So thank you, Professor Gopan and Professor Shiva, for organizing this. Great to be part of this. So I'll quickly talk about a couple of interventions, technology interventions that we were involved in. So the eHealth Research Center has been working on, among other things, various kinds of applications and platforms for managing healthcare. And when COVID in the pandemic started almost just about a year back, and you'll remember that one of the first things that we all, apart from the danger to health and lockdown and stuff like that, as soon as the first lockdown was lifted, we suddenly saw this huge crisis of workers, laborers who had moved in from various states who are now stranded in places like Karnataka, Andhra, Tamil Nadu, and all that, who all wanted to go back to their home states. which are Bihar, Jharkhand, and other places in the east and northeast. So there was a looming humanitarian crisis on helping these people get help and getting back to where they wanted. And we got involved in this. So Divya Raj was here also, who's, by the way, a third batch IIIT-B alum. He has been in touch with NGOs and the government in Jharkhand, and we've been having some discussions. And he noticed that there was a great need for putting together some kind of a platform to help them track all these people and start organizing relief efforts. So we quickly sprung into action and put up what started as a simple platform for a help desk. Essentially, Jharkhand had set up a help desk. So this was a platform that would let them manage the data and collect the data of people who could call in and so on. So a matter of days, a quick platform was put out and numbers were broadcast on WhatsApp and Facebook and others, and suddenly started getting lakhs of calls into the help desk. And very quickly, they were able to build a database of people from Jharkhand who were stranded in various places, needed different kinds of help. So somebody would call in and say, our group has a health problem, or we need food, or whatever it is, or we want to come back to soon. So very quickly, we were able to collect data, which was showing where people were all over the country, and where they were stranded, and which district of Jharkhand, which place in Jharkhand they wanted to get back to. This allowed the help desk to manage this, collect data at a very granular level, and share it with all the other departments that were involved in this: the labor department, the health department, various NGOs, various other government organizations, railways, and so on, who are all trying to, in this chaos, manage this movement of people. And this platform, as in real time, as data was being collected, new features were being added, more analysis was done. We were able to present charts, dashboards, summaries, and so on, which was shared with NGOs and others, and they were able to very effectively manage the movement of these people all over the place. So this was, we're talking about about the same, within a couple of weeks. The other thing that got done was an app got developed and distributed or made available to individuals, so they could log in their request, put in location where they are, what kind of help they need, and so on. So all this data was in real time made available. And this was used by the government organizations to actually plan transportation, whether to coordinate the railways and buses to say from where buses need to come. You just think about the scale of the problem, right? Just for a state of Jharkhand, there are a few million people spread all over the country who all want to come back, and somebody has to coordinate all this, right? And that's where this platform seemed to help. There were some extreme cases, like there are about 280 laborers who were stuck in Ladakh and had to be airlifted. There were some who were stuck in the Andamans or other countries outside. So this, using the data and the analysis that we were able to provide, they were able to bring back. We worked with a couple of NGOs there, the FIA Foundation, which works with Jharkhand government, and incidentally another startup, Patriotech, who's based in Ranchi, was also headed by an alumnus of same batch as Divya Raj, Ravi Shankar, third batch again. So we worked together with them to put this whole thing together. So this went fine, and as I said, over 7 to 8 lakh people's information was collected, coordinated, and we believe this played a role in helping them all get back to their home places. As soon as that happened, soon after that, we moved to the next phase, where now the government is looking at the health side of things. How do you screen for COVID and track COVID infections in the villages of Jharkhand? So we got involved with the Azim Premji Foundation was working with a couple of NGOs, again, FIA Foundation, others, to put together a grassroots campaign where they could have a door-to-door screening of people in the villages in hard-to-reach places where there's no doctors, hospitals, others available. So these were called Arogya Mitras. They were like Asha workers who would actually go door-to-door and collect data. So we saw that one is, of course, just let them collect the data, but there was a bigger need at COVID times. How do they decide if a person needs to be tested, treated, sent to hospital, and so on? And imagine this information has to be spread in real time to a lot of workers working in the field. So we set up a centralized clinical decision support system. Here we worked with Healthy Life startup here in our campus. We got some funding from the Emphasis grant, and we put together a system where you could record where the field worker would just have to enter all the symptoms, just simple yes, no type of thing. And the system would give back a recommendation based on rules. The rules had been developed along with a set of doctors, a panel of doctors we had assembled. So this was authentic, following ICMR guidelines and other things. So now the field workers were getting access to accurate assessments based on which they could take the next call saying, okay, if a person has these symptoms, they need to see a doctor or they need to be tested and so on. That system is still being used. It was launched in 15 blocks, roughly 15 talukas, maybe a few thousand villages, with about 150 Arogya Mitras using it. And at this point, I think they have screened more than 1 lakh patients. We have statistics, and that data is now being analyzed to see, patterns and things like that. We thought this will come down, but now with COVID appearing to pick up, we believe this will again get used quite a bit. Azim Preti Foundation is quite happy with this. They want to see how this can be scaled up to other kinds of disease tracking and things like surveillance in general. So these are sort of 2 examples of where we were able to intervene in more or less real time during the COVID times. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Srikanth. It is amazing as to how much we could do in such a short time. And, I do find some of the parents of our students also logged in. And it's interesting for them to kind of know that on one hand, Jayati did present fairly sophisticated models. And, being a PhD student, that is the kind of rigor they use. At the same time, we are also able to impact lakhs and lakhs of students. See, normally IT projects for the last 30, 40 years, you spend crores on projects, you take years to develop, it'll impact some thousands. Good thing, no complaints. But what actually COVID has shown is you can do it in days and weeks, if not months. You can impact lakhs and millions, and quite often the cost is peanuts, and a lot of time it is a free labor. Of course, if you add value, I'm sure the value is quite high. And I think satisfying that we are able to impact. I think impact just not the corporate people, impact people who are generally been completely out of the system, like the migrant labor. I think Srikanth, it must have been great, satisfying, and particularly Divyaraj. I think you also must be feeling good that you could make a difference to your own state and also our other alum Ravi. Okay, so thank you. I think we'll come back to you with more questions. And may now request Professor R. Chandrasekhar, RC, to share his views. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Sadagopan, and very good morning to all of you. I think firstly, I would like to thank Professor Shiva for organizing this wonderful panel discussion, especially which is very, very relevant at this current point in time. And as Professor Sadagopan mentioned, the ethos of the IIIT-Bangalore as an institution is based on 3 pillars of education, research, and innovation. And we have already seen to what extent our research and research tried to impact, contribute in this particular crisis. And similarly, on the innovation side also, we have seen how some of the work we have done internally, we have tried to take it out. And as part of my brief update, I would like to focus on 2 things. One is specifically, I would like to talk about during the very initial days of COVID, IIIT-B in general has been a source of assistance and help to Government of Karnataka in various fronts, right? So many of us, including Professor Sadagopan, Professor Das, myself, and Professor Srikanth, so many of us serve in a lot of different committees of Government of Karnataka. So the good part is that IIIT-B is viewed as a trusted partner to help the government in various IT initiatives. So it was only natural that when this particular pandemic hit upon us exactly 1 year ago, they were looking up to IIIT-B along multiple fronts. And so it was just about what are the areas where we can contribute. And I'm really talking about the initial week to 10 days of the crisis really lynching these in the state. And that's when they were finding it extremely difficult to deal with the data. So they approached us and wanted to know how IIIT-B can help manage all the data that is coming from all over the place. And on top of it, there was intense pressure from the overall monitoring authorities to constantly keep reporting numbers of different status and so on. So I think while in fact Jayati made a wonderful presentation of predicting all those various parameters and the different the way the disease is predicted to explode, if I may use the term. I think I can post facto. So in that sense, so they wanted to actually deal with the data here and now. So one of the first things that one of the expertise that IIIT-B did have is in creating and working with analytics, right? So we do have lots of courses that we teach here, and so that is when our own partnership with UseReady also came in extremely handy. Mr. Uday Hegde is there in the call as well. So what we said was, okay, so one of the first things to do is to make data visible to all the stakeholders, necessary stakeholders. So how do you connect to the different data sources from which data is flowing in, and then how do you all assemble it and put it together and create a dashboard which can be used for both internal dissemination as well as external dissemination. So given that kind of a thing, I'm happy to say that the Karnataka's first ever COVID dashboard, which was hosted in the Karnataka website itself, was actually designed at IIIT-B, along with engineers from UseReady, and we had put it up. And very quickly, that's when in parallel we were trying to tell them how to sustain it, how to take it forward. So immediately they set up a parallel team, internal IT team, and they got to understand that what are the different elements to consider if you want to build a dynamic dashboard which is constantly reporting the numbers. And because there were restrictions on connecting to various data sources with respect to collection of data and so on, the IIIT-B hosted dashboard could, while we were continuing to host it for say about a week or so, in parallel we assisted the government in developing their own dashboards and so on, so that now they could directly connect to the data sources from various hospitals and so on. So that's when the whole the effort of reporting kind of took off. So I think that is maybe that was the seedling of dashboarding that we kind of planted inside the COVID war room, I would imagine. So just to make it interesting, I was trying to look around to see if the IIIT-B hosted dashboard is still around. And lo and behold, I was able to locate it. So if I can get screen sharing permission, I can quickly show it to you. Exactly 1 year, how the dashboard.
You do have, sir. You do have the screen sharing permission.
Yes. Okay. So this is live data. Okay. As of, you can see the dates here, March 8th, March 9th. So today we are on March 19th. Okay, so it's getting refreshed as we speak. Yes. Okay, so this is exactly how the first ever Karnataka dashboard looked like. So you can see 64 confirmed cases, 5 recovered, 3 deceased. We probably can even name who they were. And we can also see that there were so many places where there was no spread of the disease, right? So many districts where there was no spread of the disease. So this is something that was kind of the starting point. So the district level statistics and the number of positive cases, how was it growing and so on. So this happened to be one of the first snapshot that that went live with respect to the COVID pandemic, and I think subsequently, see, another immense credit to the government of Karnataka and the IT team assembled by the government of Karnataka is that they were so quick to latch on to this particular idea, and almost all aspects of it, including how do you ensure live updates and without impacting the quality of the data. So there were they were recommended a certain set of quality filters before the data goes into the live dashboard, because eventually it is getting uploaded to the public. So I mean, I'm so proud that they were all up to the task, and they were very, very quick to latch on to this particular the concept of live dashboarding. And in fact, again, post fact, I was even thinking, when I was looking at the team that that was part of this particular dashboarding team, one particular name I still remember was Karnataka Civil Services person, Mr. Prabhakar, right? And I was just trying to remember that I had seen him somewhere, and he happened to be one of the participants in the IIIT-B's data analytics program in 2016. I mean, I couldn't believe that, he himself came and told me, sir, well, I never expected that whatever we learned in, 4 years ago as part of the analytics program is going to come in handy now. I mean, that was so serendipitous and so interesting. So, what I want to convey is that government of Karnataka actually invested in sending some senior officers to attend these trainings to IIIT-B. Right. So that way, I think we are very, very lucky and fortunate, and I would like to even thank government of Karnataka to be hand in hand with the IIIT-B as far as keeping up with the potential of technology, and very, very openly and readily embracing all the suggestions and advice, not just as part of this initiative, but also in general as part of the various e-governance initiatives. So that was the first thing that I wanted to talk about. And the second small contribution, if I may say, is the education institutions were struggling in the face of shutdown of colleges. And suddenly all of them were asked in a rush to start conducting online classes. So there were many, many non-engineering education institutions which had no idea about how to go about doing it. And just like government of Karnataka, government of Kerala also was quite forward-looking, and then they anticipated this particular issue for their teachers. And this is again probably thanks to the reputation of government of the state of Karnataka being the IT capital. So they were hoping to get some help from Karnataka, and they reached out to IIIT-B. They reached out to IIIT-B through Professor N.J. Rao. N.J. Rao used to be a former faculty member at IIIT-Bangalore. Prior to that, he was with IISc. So he's a retired faculty member from IISc. So they reached out to him, and Professor N.J. Rao knows IIIT-B very well, and he said that who else other than IIIT-B to put together this particular program. So Professor N.J. Rao, myself, and with the help of one more Professor Rajni Kant, so we conducted training programs on online, how to conduct online classes on online education in general for non-technical, non-engineering faculty members. So we conducted 4 such sessions, and we must have covered nearly 2,000 teachers of the state of Kerala. And the feedback we received was extremely well received, and as part of that particular program, no, we even told, because IIIT-B, we ourselves were going through the online education at that point in time. So we shared all our best practices, what are all the tools that are out there. Even, I mean, they had even difficulty in identifying what are the different licensing models, what is the cost-effective way of doing it, etc., etc. So that was a very enriching experience, and I would like to believe that the teachers of Kerala would have benefited because of this, because although at that point in time they were saying that, okay, they were not sure how useful this training was going to be, because they were hoping that it will go away. But even as we speak, it doesn't, yeah, optimistically, I would like to say the end is definitely in sight, but it is still probably a little far away as far as education is concerned. So so I believe, so whatever little we have been able to do as part of, it was incidentally a 1-week training program. So it was not just a high level hand waving. We actually conducted tutorials and lab sessions and so on. So I do hope that it helped the teachers as well. So these are the couple of interventions that we did under the education pillar of IIIT-B. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Chandrasekhar. So it is kind of very nice and in fact humbling that a dashboard developed by the institute is the one through which the whole state was actually looking at it. All that I remember is, in the early 80s, our Epson, or one of the projector companies, used to have an advertisement. What you people see is finally what we show. Because finally the output of the projector is what you see, right?
Yes, yes.
So similarly, I think the world at large saw the COVID through our dashboard. So it is very humbling, and I think it's a great opportunity. And the fact that we could live up to it is such a satisfying stuff. Okay. And of course, we did use some help from our startup, Uday Hegde's company, UseReady, and also we should acknowledge the Tableau's tool available. So with that one, let me request Uday to kind of share his views. Sorry, Uday. So for those of you who do not know Uday, that he happens to be our very first batch of students who graduated, and he has been running a very successful company out of New Jersey. And we keep bothering him. He was there for the board meeting a couple of days back at 2:30 a.m. Today he's attending this at 12:30 a.m. Sorry about it, Uday. Okay, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor. Good morning to you all. And thank you again, RC, for showcasing our initial work of COVID dashboard. And this was a very effective way to communicate our message and also help the leaders all across. And today I want to talk about briefly, because my topic of choice is entrepreneurship, which is also my favorite topic. And I really want to share with you all what exactly was going on inside the CEO's mind. Running a business, as you may know, UseReady has close to 400 employees between New Jersey, New York, and spread across in the United States, plus Canada and Bangalore, India. And immediately, I think one of the key things as the business leader, I had to take a quick decision around. So we don't know how long this crisis is going to be. We don't know how deep the crisis is going to be. We have no, at least known data at that point to say what is the outcome. Of course, having lived this far, I have seen 2 crises, maybe 3 crises, and but this was very unique. This was a special crisis. And as a leader, my situation was that I had 4 basic quadrants to manage, right? Manage up, which is my board and the investors, and manage my peers. Manage down, that is my employees and the team members, and also 4th quadrant is manage outside. Essentially, the time of the essence where we had to make quick decisions while maintaining the safety. So what is safety? Is basically physical safety and psychological safety of people. And people always come first, because end of the day, It's people who build businesses, who run businesses, and who basically build the world. So in my case particularly, the decision making was going along the lines of ensuring psychological safety and physical safety of people as the first priority. So being, of course, a technology company, we were lucky in a way that we were basically able to quickly start working from home. We made sure in every country and region we followed the local orders. The, for me personally, the biggest challenge was, as people started working remotely, how do you really communicate? And how do we even know what is going on in their families, what is going on in their background? Could we expect them to actually even work at all? And at the same time, our outside stakeholders, right? Our outside stakeholders are our partners, our customers. And how do we ensure there is no disruption to that community? So what we ended up doing is, as a first step, I decided to over communicate. Basically, what I say, there is no ivory tower. And let me share my screen. I want to show you one quick, possibly a screen. Can you see my screen? Visible?
It is visible there.
Great. So these are the two perspectives. I mean, one of the sayings that I always remember from Intel CEO, late Andy Grove, he says, bad companies are destroyed by crisis, good companies survive them, and great companies are improved by them. So essentially, our thought process was, how do we really not let this crisis go waste? In a way, it's a perspective end of the day. So what we decided to do is use these two basic framework to sort of over communicate amongst, it's sort of 360-degree over communication, if you may call it. So the left side diagram is essentially was communicated or used to communicate psychological safety or instill psychological safety amongst employees. So I have a monthly town hall and webinar format where I started talking about, do we want to how do we want to operate, or where do we want to operate? Let's not be in the fear zone, right? Let's not even be in the learning zone. Can we be in the growth zone? And what should happen? And what are the ways how to think about it? So as also I used at that time the chart on the right side, which is basically from Gartner, how to, or what are the typical four phases that happen in a crisis? How do you lead in a disruptive crisis? And if you see the chart, the curve here is sort of Gartner hype cycle style curve, but there was no clarity. Is this going to be a U shape? Is it going to be a V shape? Is it going to be a straight line curve? Some people said it's going to be double V, whatnot. People were, media was predicting all sort of things, and we essentially stuck with this four phase thought process. We said, and we put timelines around these four phases. We said, what is our forecasted phase one going to be, and how long does it last? Let's say it's going to be a 2 quarters, in which is about 6 months cycle, and then we are going to go into this redirect to new realities, right? And then how do we rebound to the future and accelerate to opportunities? And this framework actually helped us a lot in terms of thinking how to put a perspective about how to think about crisis overall. As a leader, however, I had to think about various aspects, one of them being, control. What is preventable, and what is inevitable? And what is internal impact and what is external impact? Is this a localized situation, or is it widespread situation, right? And lastly, is this a temporary duration, or is it going to be an enduring duration? And a lot of that decision the areas were unclear, and as we were making decisions, we had to keep one thing in our mind, which is the financial impact of these things to the business itself. If we made wrong choices, there was very likely that we would lose the business, and of course impacting a lot of families. And that was something that bothered me at that point. And I sort of became sort of hands-on chief worry officer, right? Being chief worry officer actually helped me because I was able to anticipate and think about all the risks, right? Instead of going from CEO, I took a title of CWO, right? Chief worry officer. So, and then that alone was quite helpful in sort of thinking about should we be going from cost-oriented thinking to a response-oriented thinking? Are we going to, what are the principles? How do we really build this? So as I'm sharing with you, it's something that was going on in my sort of entrepreneur's mind, right? There were aspects of it. What are the principles? How do we build redundancy? Are we resilient? How do we increase the resilience, right? How embedded are we? Are we aligned to the outside world? Do we know exactly what's going on within our customer ecosystem, within our partner ecosystem, within our employees and families of them, right? Our adaptability was actually very important for us. So as an entrepreneur, I would still go back and say that it also has a lot of opportunities. In fact, one of the biggest opportunities that came our way was twofolded actually. One was talent acquisition. So because of the crisis and the shake-up, there was very good talent available in the market, sort of a senior talent that probably would not be available to us if but for crisis. So if you go back to Andy Grove's statement about, how do we improve ourselves using crisis, right, through the crisis. And then the second aspect of it was about how we actually acquired a company in Gurgaon in North India. So we actually wouldn't be able to bring on board and or grow that quickly. And in a nutshell, the crisis actually improved us as a business. We grew over 40% from the year before. In fact, our best performing year was actually the COVID year. So I will always remember probably through my life that actually this happened and we were able to survive through. There were some core ideas there. For example, knowing that decision makers, right, in those situations should become, like I said earlier, CWO or chief worry officers, and do not have that ivory tower mentality, but bring all hands on the deck, right, and over communicate as much as you can. And ultimately, like this always say, cash is king, right? Making sure that we had enough cash in the bank as we were going through. In fact, I must say, governments all across, I think in both in US and India, responded really well. And the banks that we work with were very considerate and understanding. And I think this is one of those examples where I think we as humans, I think, came together. And I think it's because of those measures that we took as a collective, I would say collective intelligence, right? So that really helped us not only survive, but also thrive in an environment that was very atypical. Thank you.
Thank you, Uday. It was very satisfying. And, to quote your words, just don't survive, but thrive. I think it is amazing that this 2020 would be your best year, and COVID did not deter you from pursuing your excellence. Thank you. Okay, so now we have about 15 minutes for some questions. Let me just look at, chat. Okay, I don't see any questions. Okay. Shiva, okay. Any other questions which people have posted? Otherwise, I would post my
No,
question.
there are no questions anywhere.
Okay, so let me kind of ask one question which any one of the panelists or all of them can take. What was the pleasant surprise you encountered in this exercise? Something which was quite nice, but you never thought, So any one of you? Jayati, RC, Shrikant, Uday?
Sure, I think each one will have our own set
Fine,
of
go
pleasant
ahead.
surprises.
Go ahead. Yes.
So maybe I'll start with the
Sure.
pleasant surprises that I had. So in my case, I think that's a wonderful question, Professor, because in many of these cases, we do require all hands on deck to be able to make an impact. So that level of support, only if it is there, then we can make some difference. So in that context, as I said earlier, the pleasant surprise was the readiness of the IT team put together by the government, by GOK, to take it over from where we started, right? I think to be fair to them, being an IT education institution, we probably were up to the task to turn it around in probably, I think within 48 hours of being told, we were able to put it up. But I mean, of course, I think that is quote unquote to be expected from an IT institution. But from a government perspective, the fact that they were able to get it up and running on their own based on the initial impetus given by us in a matter of 10-15 days, I think that's remarkable. I think that was an extremely pleasant surprise for me in my experience in that one.
Okay, thank you, RC. I think governments work and governments do work and government do great work. I think it is something which is quite interesting. Thank you. Very good to summarize. I see Shrikant. Any quick? Yeah.
Yeah, sure. I think I actually also, Diviraj gave me this thing, but if you look at it, when we built this thing, we were like, I think like you also mentioned, right, a lot of IT systems that get built, and what was pleasantly surprising is that got used to the extent it did. I think within 24 hours after it being launched, there's almost 1 lakh data being recorded and grew to 7 lakhs in no time. So it was a very fulfilling and pleasant surprise to say that, you do something and actually gets used and, in a very short period of time. So I think that probably was the most satisfying and honestly a pleasant surprise. We just thought this would be like another system that just, is there and some small use happens out of it.
Any other panelists, Jayati or Uday, you want to add?
I think one of the, sorry, Jayati, go ahead.
Yeah.
No, go ahead. Yeah, I'll go next.
All right. So I think there were many pleasant surprises. For example, when I think about when the financial crisis in 2009 happened, I was actually at the heart of it because I was working in Wall Street in New York, and considering that as an example, I thought this time around the governments all across the world got into swift action and announced support to the businesses and communities, which was actually a pleasant surprise. I was actually expecting it to be more prolonged. I think because of the quick action or response from the governments, we were able to do much better than otherwise. That was one big pleasant surprise. The other one is actually, I think, as always said, for me at least, once again, we always heard this cash is king, but unless you go through a crisis, I think as an entrepreneur, I would say you don't realize how critical that is. It was very interesting and very important lesson that was also surprising in a way. Those are my 2 comments. Jayati, over to you.
Sure.
You, Uday. Jayati?
Yes, sir. So I would like to add to like what Professor RC mentioned. So even with regard to the research aspect, it was crucial that we have a team of interdisciplinary experts. So for example, we interacted with doctors from NIMHANS who guided us regarding different aspects of the model. We collaborated with like Professor Anupama from BITS Goa, who is an epidemiologist and who like told us intricacies about the epidemic models and so on. So I think it was it was a great experience to quickly build a team and which had very specific and distinct skill sets, and that in turn helped us in building much more rigorous and useful research parts of the models as well. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so thank you, Jayati. I think it was good. Like RC, one of our students coined a nice term. During COVID, he said, "Government is the hero." Suddenly, government has become the hero, which is quite, normal days. You have a very interesting view of the government. Okay, so but I think it is good. So there are quick questions. One from Tirthankar, and I'll take it up first. Then I'll come to Prasanna. C19 period triggered many innovations. How important was the industry academic collaboration during these times? Any examples from IIIT-B? Over to the panelists. Any one of you?
Well, at least as I mentioned, as far as the some of the initial work that we did, it was definitely the contribution came from industry through UseReady. So UseReady very readily allocated dedicated resources to work exclusively on this particular initiative. And even on other fronts as well, there were many other project proposals that were doing rounds from a long-term perspective, in which we did have partnerships and interactions with the industry folks, because it does, as I said, research is completely inward facing from an academic perspective. Industry is completely exclusively outward facing from from a delivery perspective. So I think innovation is the bridge between this research and the industry. And I think through that particular innovation vehicle of IIIT-B is where we were trying to make those connects with respect to actually delivering the solutions. I think that without that particular industry connect, it will be difficult, if not impossible, to take the research out into the open. So I think it played a very crucial role.
Thanks from Srikanth or Uday or Jay?
I think just to continue on what I said, I mean, both of the examples I gave, the startups or small companies were critical players in that. One was Patritech in Jharkhand, who were part of the team, both doing the implementation and the help with the deployment and stuff. And for the clinical decision support system, we worked with Healthy Life, who had a platform that could leverage very quickly. In both of them, I think they helped both in time to market, getting out the solution very quickly and providing the actual skills to put the whole system together. While we had a team that luckily had been working on similar kinds of applications, were able to ramp up very quickly. So I think this was a true partnership with these startups that helped us deliver these solutions. So I think that those would be examples I can think of.
Thank you, Srikanth. Tirthankar, I do hope you got answer to your question. And we have one question from our colleague, Dr. Prasanna. What do you think about the future direction of education?
I just have one small thing before that.
Okay, go ahead.
It's just before related to Tirthankar's question. Yes, I could not participate because I am taking an exam, and that was on the basis of students' own requirement to reduce workload. So it so happens that I am actually not going to participate in this because I am in conducting an exam. So what happened was about this. We are doing something with PSA. There was a big call for C19 solutions going all over India. So along with some other institutions, we were selected among those by PSA and are now trying to, our project involves flying vaccines by drones to various remote areas. So it has started to, it is in the sort of first stage funding stage. For more information, you can talk to me, and there are other things also which we did. We did have some correspondence with Knut and so on and so forth. So you can talk to me, but unfortunately I couldn't participate much because of my clash.
No problem. Thank you, Prasanna. Good thing is you always provide answers to your questions, so you don't have to worry. Okay, so thank you. Okay, and before we close, we have another about 4 minutes. Any quick comments from all of you? Maybe each one of you can take a minute, so that So let us start with Uday first, because you were the last to go. Okay, so yes, Uday.
My final comments are actually, I think, when you reflect back, I think it is a very surreal in a way that we actually made it through the cycle. The future, on the other hand, looks actually brighter than ever, especially for us who are in the digital world. I think this has, end of the day, this has accelerated the digital adoption, and we are going to see a lot more development, lot more investments coming into the technology. I think that's already proven. So very exciting future ahead is how I think about it.
Thank you, Uday. Thank you for the optimistic note. RC?
Yes, Professor. I think the going forward also, one thing that has opened the COVID has taught again is that they wherever from whatever source the help is coming, if it is forthcoming and if it is going to address the problem even a little bit, I think that is everybody is being receptive to accepting solutions, even if it's not going to boil the ocean. Even if small solutions are there, as long as the people are willing to see value in it. So I think that is going to open up opportunities for contributions to be coming not only from big research centers, but even student entrepreneurship and student innovation is going to get a big fillip as far as the acceptability is concerned. In fact, later today, we are going to have another panel discussion with the student entrepreneurs to see how things can, how they can also get involved more as part of the solving society's problems. So I think we have exciting times ahead.
Sorry, Srikanth?
Thank you. Yeah, I think to summarize some of the things, I think one of the takeaways, some of the learnings from this year has been like what I said, there's a crisis, but we can still do something useful and help both manage the crisis and do better than that. And definitely what you can see is there is a need for technology. Good technology-based solutions are useful, are going to help. And there is a receptivity to it because there have been many instances of technology helping in, especially in the crisis situation. Now, in more recent conversations in the government stuff, I see a lot more interest in looking at why can't you build something to do X type of thing. And I think there's a lot of responsibility on the technology folks to leverage this, come up with solutions that can actually be used rather than adding to the noise that's there. And I think we can make an impact, and actually there's a lot of sections of society that can benefit from this kind of work. So I'm actually quite enthused by, in some sense, by some of the things that have happened both from IIIT and elsewhere, and I'm hoping that will build up to better things.
Thank you, Srikanth. Jayati, you will have the last word.
Sure. Thanks, sir. Yeah. I would say so we have been working on our own research areas and so on, but it has been a great experience to work on something related to COVID-19, as it could help and had a direct impact on the things going on. And also it was a pleasant experience to interact with so many other experts of different domains and collaboratively build and work, create models and so on. Yeah. So.
Okay, so thank you all, and let all of us join hands and give a big hands to the esteemed panelists.
Sir, you have a question from Surjit.
Yeah, I have already answered it. Okay, so I said, okay. So I already said, okay. So anyway, I'll read it out. Sujit had a question. This is, how has the research in IIIT coped with its own existential crisis during the pandemic? And my response is very simple, coped up well. And I said more in person. Okay, so I will do that. Okay, so thank you all. Thanks. And Shiva, you see, I think the only way by which you measure my performance is whether I finished in time. So I had finished 1 minute ahead of time. So that is the only job of assess. The coordinator of a panel discussion is a bellman. So we have to ring the bell. So you have exactly 10:45, and we have not messed up your other schedule. Thank you, Shiva. And
thank you very much, sir. Thank you, one and all. Thank you for all the panelists in this wonderful discussion. It was insightful and also exciting. Thank you very much. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Shiva, maybe you should announce the timing, because some people, okay, may not have seen all the schedule. So okay.
There will be a 15 minutes break now, and the research colloquium will start exactly at 11 a.m. and there are continuously talks from 11 to 1 and then there is a 15-minute break again, and from 1:15 onwards up to 5 o'clock there is a continuous set of first a panel discussion, then talks, and again a panel discussion. So that is the whole schedule. The second panel discussion, all these are internal, so the YouTube live will cease to exist from now. And the second panel discussion is on innovation for and by the students. And the last panel discussion of the day would be on comments on the various talks that happen in the research colloquium, and also to give a guidance. This is a panel of senior professors, so they also give guidance on, or give a comment on the health of the research at IIIT-B, and also guidance for future research directions. So that would be the last topic of the day. So in between there are 15 talks from our MS and PhD scholars, starting at 11 o'clock with a talk from Nitya Ganeshan, and it will continue. Thank you.
Thank you, Shiva. Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Bye to Uday. Okay, you can catch up some sleep.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Uday, for joining.